Hi, Mark from Ariga here again, and welcome to this fourth video on our series on how to set up Pipedrive. This video is focused on the important step of importing some data. So, as always, I'm going to assume that you're logged in as an admin user, and we're going to go right ahead and go into our settings section. And once we're in settings, the place we need to go to is under tools on the left hand side, and that is import data. Now, there's loads of useful information on this page which I'll let you look at your leisure, but there are two main methods for importing data into the system, and that is either via or from another system or via a spreadsheet or CSV flat file. We're going to concentrate on the Excel spreadsheet or flat file, so I'm going to go ahead and click that button. Now, the process from here is actually three stages. So first of all, we need to upload our file, then we need to map the fields, and finally we're going to actually perform the import itself. Now again, there is an awful lot of useful information on this page, and most of it's on the right hand side here. And one of the useful features is you can actually download empty files to put your data into. That's the perfect format for Pipedrive. Now they're not always that useful because quite often your data is already there and you don't really want to waste time putting it into a different format, but they can be useful to see what sort of fields you need in your data. Now, there is also some information about custom fields that we covered in a previous video and also mandatory fields. Again, you can look at that at your leisure. So I've gone ahead and created an Excel spreadsheet, and this is a typical format that we would come across if we were importing some data. There's only 3 records, but you've got a bit of company information, a bit of contact information, and a bit of deal information. So we're going to close that down, and then I'm going to drag it on to the web browser. Now you can also browse through it, and it's going to start uploading. Now it should be quite quick, but if you've got a bigger file, obviously that'll take a bit longer. Okay, once that's happened, it's going to take us straight to our next stage, which is mapping the data. And the first thing to note is that at the top there is a checkbox which says the first row in my file contains column headers. So basically this is just you telling the system that you have column headings in your file, and that is what it's going to use as its column names. We would always recommend to have that. It's very rare you come across files without it. So the system itself has mapped some fields automatically, as you can see here. So first name and last name, happy with those. But the sort of greyed out fields are where we're actually going to have to do some work. So first of all, we're going to map the address. So we're going to go to the organisation entity on the right, and you can see the address fields here. And then all I need to do is drag over the field that I actually want onto the left-hand side. So you can see making the choices here, fairly straightforward. Just drag a few more. So yeah, we've got the city and the county and finally the zip or postal code. Okay, so we'll now come down to some deal fields. So I need to select deals on the right hand side to get to the deal fields. Okay, so I'm going to select that there, and then I need to select the relevant field. So it hasn't mapped deal name because actually we want to map that to title. Okay, and then I want to map lead source, which is actually a custom field we created in a previous video. Now, this is slightly different in that it is an option set. So what I need to do here is I need to map the values in my file to it. Now, quite usefully, the values in my file, which would appear here, actually match exactly the values in the option set. So the system automatically does it for me. Obviously, if I had other values that didn't match, I could just drag them over, and we're going to see that a little bit more in action in a minute. So I'm going to click save there once I'm happy with it. So one of the nice features of the import is you can actually bring your deals into whatever pipeline and whatever stage you want. This is particularly useful if you've got multiple pipelines. So we do this a bit like the option set. So you see there's an exclamation mark there. We're going to click on that, and that brings up our mapping field. So as before, on the left there's the values in the file, and what I need to do is I need to decide which pipeline and which stage they go into. The pipeline name being the bit in brackets and the stage being the bit before it. So if I scroll down, you can see that we have our services pipeline. Okay, you see it in the brackets there, and I'm going to drag my 2 services ones into the relevant stages, or the ones that I think they map best to. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same for the product pipeline, which is another pipeline we have in this particular system. Okay, once I'm happy, I click Save. And once I'm happy with all my field mappings, I'm not going to worry about address 3, then I can click Next. So the final stage is just to have a look at what the data looks like and then perform the import. So the first options we get here are whether we want to merge data or create multiple records. So the merging data means that it's going to dedupe it on import, and it will only happen on the people in the organisations. Now, generally speaking, it's going to match on things like name, and we would always recommend doing that to keep your data nice and clean. So I've got merge data selected here. I'm going to leave it like that. If we scroll down, we can take a little preview of it. Don't be too concerned the fact it shows 2 person 1 records and 2 company A records. It will deal with that when we actually import it. It just doesn't do the deduping in this preview screen. Okay, so once I'm happy, I'm going to click Start, and you'll see that it comes up at the bottom here, and we can watch it go through, and eventually it will be finished. So now I can actually go and have a look at my data. So I'm going to go and click across to Deals, and waiting for it to load. Okay, you can see my deal going to that stage of the pipeline and another deal there. And if we click across to the product pipeline, if you remember our mapping for the stage, you can see our third deal is there. Equally, I can go across to the contacts, have a look at the organisations. Okay, see company A and company B, I don't have any duplicates. And likewise for the people, I can say test person 1 and test person 2 with no duplicates. You can see the deduping's worked. Now, the final thing I just want to mention is there's quite a nice feature in the import that actually allows us to roll back any imported data. So to get to that, we go back to our settings and back to our import data. And we go back to the row where we imported. And all we need to do is click Revert. And then cancel and revert. And what that's going to do, if you watch the yellow bar, it's going to go backwards and it's going to remove any data that was added as part of this import. So quite nice and quick. You can see it says reverted. If I go to deals now, you can see that they have been removed. So that's it for importing data. Hopefully nice and simple. As always, if you do have any further questions or you'd like any further help, please get in touch on the email on the screen. Thanks very much for listening.